Hello and welcome to the Tatiana Show. It is December 20th, 2016. I think it's about the last show of this long year of all sorts of ups and downs. But I'm happy to be here with you guys today. Unfortunately, Josh is ill and he can't join us, but I have a replacement for Josh. My good friend Josie, the Outlaw Wales, will be joining me today. Hi, Josie.
Hello, Tatiana. How are you?
I'm good. So, for people that don't know you, I guess let's introduce you a little bit and then I'll give context as to why you're on the show today, in addition to just coming on as regular guest.
Okay. I always hate when this people ask me. Like Liberty, and I say it, and I make YouTube videos about why good people should be armed. That was one of the first. That's probably what most people would recognize immediately. I think it's really important to protect our First Amendment rights, which is a very important issue and what we will be focusing on today with the guest, First and Second Amendment issues. I lean more towards anarchism, a public speaker, writer. I live in a cabin in the woods like an old cave woman, and that's about it.
Okay, got it. So now everybody knows. So who are you writing for right now?
Right now I'm writing for the Anti-Media and D10E, which is it's a decentralization kind of a conference. They've had a couple conferences all over the world, run by I think Brock Pierce, who is huge in the Bitcoin cryptocurrency movement. Tiffany Madison, Matt McKibben. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I'm like Matt does it now.
Yeah. So Matt, are you going to their event in Europe this winter? I think they have something in February.
It is, yeah, and it's in Bucharest. However, I think it might be conflicting with Anarchapulco, so we're going to see what goes on there.
Yeah, it is. It does conflict. I already checked the dates previously. They don't overlap completely, but it would be a very tight flight. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I didn't know I guess I did know you were going to Anarchapulco. Anyway, why don't we bring on our first guest? Rudy Davis was, introduced to me in the context of somebody who's advocating for Schaeffer Cox. Now, you personally know Schaeffer, and Schaeffer's in jail. And we're going to talk about that today because, Ross Ulbricht isn't the only one suffering in this country in prisons. And I think that it's really good for people to talk about this and get a little bit more insight instead of just glossing over it and putting it under the rug, which is what we do with a lot of the people that end up in jail in this country, and not always justly. So this is a little bit of a political case. Rudy, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you, Tatiana, for having me, and thank you for allowing us to speak about the unjust incarceration of Schaeffer Cox. He is an absolutely innocent man in prison, and the more people that hear about him, the better.
Oh, so tell me a little bit about your background and how you came upon this case.
My life changed when I got involved with a man by the name of Kent Hovind. He is a famous preacher that preaches on evolution and creationism. And he spent 9 years in prison for the stupidest law in the history of the world called structuring, which means he was withdrawing his own money from his own bank to pay his own bills. And he spent 9 years in prison. They put his wife in prison for 1 year. And my wife wrote him a letter in prison, and he wrote us a letter back, and he called us. He ended up calling us, and we ended up getting involved in the Kent Hovind case, and that was how my life changed. I started to awaken to the prison industrial complex, how unjust our judicial system is, and from there, it's just it's been an incredible journey. But Schaeffer Cox was one of our next focus points when we found out about him and what has been done to this young freedom fighter in our country. So it started off with Kent Hovind, and now we're on Schaeffer Cox, and there are others as well. Like you said, there are many others that have been locked up as political prisoners in our country, and thank God that we do have some people that are speaking out about it.
Right. So let me ask you something. You're a member of a religious group called Gideons Army. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Why was this religious group so brought to this? Like, why is this something that they care about?
You bet. So this same group of people that came together for Ken Hovind, keep in mind that even though he spent 9 years in jail for structuring and he was unjustly targeted, they wanted to put him in prison for the rest of his life. So a group of people came to, they wanted to actually keep him in prison because he mailed a letter. It was absolutely absurd. There's been many documentaries and videos about it. You'll have to check it out when you get time. But he's a prolific writer. He wrote a book called The Kennel, which exposes the prison industrial complex. And Gideon's Army came together for Ken Hovind. And I think a lot of us learned, how unjust our American legal system is, about prosecutorial misconduct, about judicial misconduct. And when we saw that, we realized that we had to say something. And just as in Gideon's Army, we make noise and we shine light. So we go speak to anybody that will allow us to speak about this topic. And we educate. We meet every Saturday. We pray. We read our Bible. We speak about and give counsel to each other about how to make noise and shine light for these political prisoners. And, that's what we do every Saturday with Schaeffer. And we give counsel to each other about how to educate people on Schaeffer's case. Because there's a saying that Schaeffer often says, and it's when the truth gets out, so will he. When people understand what really happened to Schaeffer and his situation, they will be forced to say something because it's just so horribly unjust. And I can't believe that we've got to a point in this country where we do have political prisons. Most people don't even know that we have CMU prisons. I don't know if you've ever heard that word, Communications Management Unit. There's one in Marion, Illinois, and there's one in Terre Haute, Indiana. And it's absolutely horrific. There's less than maybe 150 prisoners, and these two political prisoners, there's documents on YouTube called The Secret Prisons You've Never Heard of. They're going to make a movie about Schaeffer's life one day, and they're going to make a movie about this whole situation. And we just thank you for the opportunity to speak about his case, and we want to educate as many people as we can and turn this thing around if we can.
Absolutely. I think it's wonderful work that you guys are doing, because a lot of times people who are in the prison system are these sort of forgotten little bastards that no one cares about, and people don't ever stop to think about, is this just, and what do we do with these people? And I think that our society is sort of judged on that, not just on these happy little moments that we have, but also how do we treat our prisoners, and how do we administer justice? Otherwise, it's just a lot of lip service. Can you tell me a little bit about Schaeffer, as if I knew nothing about the case? A lot of our audience isn't familiar with it. So, because it seems a little complicated to me as well. So can you kind of walk me through it?
You bet. So Schaeffer Cox, I want you to imagine like Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, George Washington, Patrick Henry, Benjamin Franklin, all rolled up into one, and a good-looking young man that knew how to motivate people about the Second Amendment. He knew how to motivate people about freedom. He was a Liberty speaker like you won't believe. He was Alaska's best and brightest when it came to speaking about liberty, and everywhere he went, thousands of people would listen to him speak, and he would expose, a lot of the injustices and corruption in our government. And I believe he was targeted for that. Matter of fact, the first time I learned about Schaeffer, I was trying to go to sleep. I had to get up for work early in the morning. And my wife was watching a Montana speech that was given by Schaeffer. And it's called the Solution Speech by Schaeffer Cox. And if you get a chance, it's about an hour and 40 minutes. It will change your life, because you'll see the heart of this young man as he speaks to this crowd, and you'll see what he's all about. And I realized when I heard him speak, I was like, what happened to him? Let me investigate a little bit more. I wrote him a letter. We started to communicate. I've now sent him about 300 different emails. We've put up over 650 videos on YouTube just on his case alone.
Wow.
I've got his folks up in Alaska sent me a terabyte hard drive with all of his discovery evidence. And I've actually uploaded audio from the trial. Not only that, but audio from the entrapment, the paid government informants. We call one of them a $300,000 whore, because he testified in trial that he expected to be paid $300,000 for his undercover work targeting Schaeffer Cox. But going back to just introduction to Schaeffer Cox, he was the best and brightest that Alaska had to offer. He talked about the Federal Reserve. He talked about the need to get back to an honest currency. Our founder spoke with inflammatory language, right? Thomas Jefferson said, the tree of liberty must be fertilized from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. I would rather live in dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery. Patrick Henry, of course, said, give me liberty, give me death. When Schaeffer spoke, he spoke like that, right? He spoke, and he had an incredible, he still has a masterful, articulated control of the English language. When I read some of his letters from prison, I break down crying. And I have to give them to my wife because she's more emotionally stable than I, and so I have her read the letters. But he absolutely can absolutely reach in and touch your heart when it comes to freedom, and that's why they had to shut him up. They spent over 2 years with various government informants trying to perform extreme entrapment on the man, trying to provoke him. They went after his child. They tried to provoke him in acts of violence, and he resisted at every turn. And we are trying to educate people about not only the entrapment mechanisms of these paid government informants, but also the prosecutorial misconduct that happened during the trial and the judicial misconduct. It's just absolutely horrific what they did to Schaeffer Cox. And it's really hard to understand the full story of Schaeffer Cox without understanding what happened to Senator Ted Stevens. There's 2 books written on Senator Ted Stevens. I highly recommend it because it will tell you the details of what they did to Schaeffer Cox. One of them is titled "Not Guilty: The Unlawful Prosecution of United States Senator Ted Stevens" by Rob Carey. The second book is "License to Lie: Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice" by Sidney Powell. Both of them are inside attorneys, and they write from an insider's perspective. The reason it's important to understand what happened to Schaeffer Cox is the same prosecutors who withheld exculpatory evidence, who used known perjured testimony, who manipulated witnesses. The same prosecutors, Joseph W. Bottini as the lead prosecutor in the Ted Stevens case, the same prosecutor that has been exposed for everything that he did to Senator Ted Stevens, he also is a prosecutor in Schaeffer Cox. It's called the Polar Pen Team. They used known fabricated testimony from a pedophile. Matter of fact, Schaeffer Cox was exposing this pedophile ring in Alaska, and that was why he was targeted, because they had to shut him up. So I mentioned a CMU prison earlier, and it's called the secret prisons you've never heard of, Tatiana. But the reason they put him in CMU is because they couldn't get it. They didn't want him to get his message out. Well, for some reason, he spent 3.5 years in CMU, and nobody could barely hear from him. But just within the last 1.5 years, they've taken him out. I don't know what happened, but we're taking advantage of that. And so we're taking information as we hear from Schaeffer, and we are getting it out on YouTube and social media. And thank you for allowing us to speak about his case, because it is absolutely horrific. If they can do this to Senator Ted Stevens, if they can do it to Schaeffer Cox, they can do it to you and me. And for whom the bell tolls, who's going to be next?
Okay, now I just want to hop in here for a second, if that's okay. Now I think it might be important to point out some of the evidence. I mean, a lot of the evidence that was not ever brought to court, like, the recordings, basically, it was kind of.
Guys, I still don't understand what he did, though.
Okay, all right. If you want to go through the charges, what?
You bet.
Yeah, because before we start analyzing it, I wanna understand better, and I want our audience to feel like they understand what he's actually in prison for.
You bet. He was brought up on charges with conspiracy to murder government agents, which is absolutely ludicrous. There was no victim. He never planned on murdering anybody. They brought him up on conspiracy to possess illegal firearms. I've got an example here. I don't know if you guys see this. This is, any redneck in Texas has one of these. It's called a grenade shell. There's a hole in the bottom. They make a joke at it where they pull little things, pull here for complaint. Schaeffer had a few of those, and they said that because he had black powder in a different part of the garage and somebody planted fuses, that he was conspiring to own live grenades. That is absolutely ridiculous. Schaeffer writes a long write-up about all of these weapons charges. He stuck a rubber hose on the end of his gun and filled it with shaving cream, and they said that he was conspiring to own a silencer. That's absolutely lucrative. You can actually legally own a silencer if you pay a $200 tax, but to spend 27 years in prison for these conspiracy to possess illegal weapons charges, and then anybody that knows Schaeffer, anybody that knows the details of the situation. Matter of fact, Larry Pratt with Gun Owners of America has came out and publicly said that Schaeffer's case is a case of extreme government entrapment. And, so that was the charges, Tatiana, to answer your question. Conspiracy to murder government agents, absolutely ludicrous. He often said and keep in mind, they had hundreds of hours from paid government informants where they were trying to provoke him to violence. They would bring up this plan 2-for-1, where Schaeffer was supposedly going to kill 2 government agents for every 1 militiaman that the government took. Absolutely ludicrous. Schaeffer would often say, "I'm going to pull a Gandhi, not a Rambo." He told Bill Fulton, who threatened to slit Schaeffer's throat, and he used a bunch of expletives, that he told Bill Fulton, "I've never punched anybody in the nose, and I don't want to start now." And this is after Bill Fulton, who's being paid by the government to provoke him to violence. One of the paid government informants, and people are going to think I'm exaggerating, Tatiana, but one of the paid government informants ran drugs for Hell's Angels, right? And this
Well,
guy,
that's not unusual. That happens, I think.
he was trying to avoid his own life sentence. He had a lifetime of cons that he was trying to avoid his own life sentence, and they hired this Gerald J.R. Olson to go after Schaeffer, and it's just absolutely horrific. It's not only the extreme entrapment, but it's the prosecutorial and judicial misconduct once it went to court, and it's the same team that went after Senator Ted Stevens and has been disciplined. They've been publicly disciplined, but they don't ever get held accountable. I mean, even though they write a book about it and a judge may say, slap them on the hand and say, bad prosecutor, nobody ever goes to jail and nobody ever gets penalized and nobody ever loses any, money. So that's the problem that we have in our society, is nobody's ever held accountable, whether you're a federal judge or whether you're a prosecutor that's gone off the rails,
Right. There doesn't seem to be much accountability in my experience as well. Josie, how did you first meet Schaeffer, and what's been your impression of this whole situation?
Well, it was actually through mutual friends that I guess we came to know each other, and he was a kind of a supporter of what I was doing, and I was obviously an advocate for his freedom. And it was I think Kat Bleish
big supporter, of course. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She connected us some time ago, and that's how I got to speak with him, and we've become very, very good friends. And I mean, I am still dumbfounded at the fact that no one knows. I think that one of the major points in this case is that he's being held in the CMUs, and I know the video that you're speaking of, Rudy, the secret prisons that you've never heard of, and there are only 2 of them, and the one that he's in is actually called it's nicknamed Little Guantanamo because it's where they put political prisoners. They have the amount of communication that high security prisons filled with convicted mass murderers and just very violent human beings who've committed violence and murder, and they get way more luxuries and communication and just basic human decency than the political prisoners hidden in the CMUs, and I think that's huge. There's, I think, only one journalist that's been allowed within the walls of that. The journalist, I think, who made that
right
talk, who's been allowed within the walls of that prison, and I think that's huge, as well as the evidence that was never brought to court, but it's the reason that the feds went after him. There's so much about this case that is a wreck, and it is a lot like it's like the original Ross Ulbricht case. It's just he was railroaded in court. It was all corrupt feds. It was all. It's amazing how no one knows the facts, and I think it's very important.
How long has he been in prison for?
About 6 years.
6 years. How much is he sentenced to?
27 years. And just to share what Josie's talking about, the CMU prisons, and that it stands for Communications Management Unit. They want to limit the communications of these prisoners because they believe they have inspirational potential, and that's absolutely right. Schaeffer is has inspirational potential, and it's absolutely horrific that we have political prisons right here on American soil. And I think the government believes, I don't know if you guys remember the MIAC report that came out, I think it was in 2009, but it targeted people that flew Gadsden flags or that believed in Ron Paul or talked about the Constitution incessantly or believed in the Second Amendment. But the MIAC report went out to I think it was the Missouri law enforcement officials, and then it got distributed to law enforcement officials all over the country, and it labeled domestic terrorists, not as Muslims or radical, people over in the Middle East. It labeled domestic terrorists as freedom believing people, right here in America. And they believe that those are the biggest threat to the American government. And in actuality, they're right. Because when our message of truth gets out, and when Schaeffer's message of truth gets out to the American people, they will fall. And so when they label us as domestic terrorists and a danger to their establishment, they're absolutely right. Because we want to reestablish, the foundation that this country was built upon, and that's built upon our freedoms. And, that's what Schaeffer was all about. And so they had to silence him. It's all about silencing his message.
It's remarkable how the PR spin of the whole entire country is that it's, oh, the land of the free, home of the brave. We have all this justice. And it's absolute utter nonsense because, you know, when you say they label us as terrorists, that's a scary thing to say, even for me who's used to that, right? To hear that. But the reality is that these people, yourself included, and, you know, all these different people that are fighting for freedom, they're certainly not terrorists. They just want to bring back things to the values that were what this country was founded on. So it's very unfortunate to see people being miscategorized just for wanting to stick to the Constitution when this is something that most politicians swear an oath to uphold.
Yeah, amen, amen.
Completely bizarre.
You know, Tatiana, I'm the friendliest guy I've ever met. I really am. I'm very easy to get along with. I don't consider myself a domestic terrorist, and yet I've been visited by the Secret Service at our front door. We videotaped the whole thing. FBI and U.S. Marshals recently visited us about 2 weeks ago. The IRS, through the actions of Lois Lerner, sent us bills for $25,000 that we did not owe. We got past the whole thing. Immigration's customs enforcement brought us up on random citizenships audit. And all of this started when we started to speak out for liberty, the Constitution. We're a very big advocate for the birth certificate as a forgery of our president. We're a very big advocate for the Second Amendment, and we're a very big advocate for political prisoners. And when you start speaking things like that, the establishment will bring all of the tools to bear against you to silence you. And but our, you know, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the Bible, you know, they didn't bow the knee, right? And the Bible talks about, you know, the men who do not bow the knee to Baal, and they just stand up for what they believe in. And so I believe Schaeffer is a man like that, and I believe we need him on the outside. We need Schaeffer on the outside, because if they hadn't thrown him in prison, there's no doubt in my mind he would be a tremendous leader in our country today for the cause of liberty. I have no doubt.
Has he been able to write or do anything from the prison that would kind of help him be, you know, have his work read? For example, Ross Ulbricht, he just posted a blog a couple days ago. It wasn't a blog. It was like a letter that he sent to his mom reflecting on his time there. I found it to be very, very inspiring over on freeross.org. But does he have any of his writings anywhere that people can get a little bit more familiar with him?
You bet, Tatiana. He is a prolific writer. He's wrote a letter called, I call it Schaeffer Cox's Inspiring Letter to Humanity. We have over 650 videos of, you know, just on Schaeffer Cox alone. And one of the letters that he wrote will inspire you as far as liberty and freedom. But he's literally written dozens and dozens. The latest letter that he wrote about living a wholehearted life absent of fear, it made me cry so much. I felt like a little baby reading his letter. But he talks about how men and women of this country have to lose their fear, and that actually when we live our life with fear as a part of our life, it's basically equivalent to a prayer to Satan, that Satan revels in our fear, and that he encourages all of us to drop this fear that we have of the government or any sort of overbearing tyranny that seems to be going on in our land today. But he has written many, many things. Those are just a couple of examples, and we try to put them all on YouTube. And he is a very, very good writer. So yeah,
Where's the central location that people can find out about this stuff?
I would say the central location is freeschaeffercox.com is a website that's put together by his friends up in Alaska. And on that website is a YouTube button, and it will take you to a playlist where my wife and I have uploaded 650 videos, and every letter that Schaeffer wants to be made public, we upload in those videos. Now, when you're looking through 650 videos, it may be difficult to find, you know, the particular ones of the no fear letter that he actually, the no fear letter, just search for the word Ruth, because what happened, there was a little girl, and I happen to know this family. So this is a real girl with a little girl. She had a dream, because the little girl's family is big in the prison ministry too. And she had a dream that she was a nightmare, that she woke up and she was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and it was for no cause. And she was panicking in this nightmare. And she wrote a letter to Schaeffer the next morning when she woke up. And she said, I think I have a little clue on what you feel like, Schaeffer, because I had this nightmare that I was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and I was panicking and I was in a nightmare. Schaeffer responds to her, and he writes back to this little girl about, you know, how she should deal with that dream that she had. But if you look up Schaeffer Cox Ruth, No Fear, I believe you'll find it. But I would say the YouTube videos are the best place to look. And I know that's a lot of videos, but he's writes so much stuff, it's just hard to categorize. So that would be the best place. And then you can always send me an email at ruddadvis@yahoo.com, ruddadvis@yahoo.com. And I do my best to, you know, point people in the right direction and things like that.
Now, I have a quick question. Are there links to the actual documents so people can read them?
Yep. Well, we haven't scanned him. Here's the deal. He writes so many letters, and we have about 12 prisoners that we're helping, my wife and I, and we're not any part of any organization, right? And so I've got boxes that are labeled for Schaeffer, and in those boxes are hundreds of letters that he's written. I've got boxes for other political prisoners, and so we just simply can't scan those letters and electronically upload them to the internet. Now, what we have reached out, and we've tried to find some people that are helping, asking some people to help us with that, but we're not at that point yet. So all of the letters that he wants made public are on YouTube, and they're read into YouTube, but they're not electronically available a lot of times. So that's unfortunately the case. We're operating on a shoestring, and we do the best that we can.
Oh yeah, just checking. Good job.
I think it's remarkable that so many people are coming together to help all these poor souls locked away. It's very encouraging. It's also very, very sad. What does the trajectory of this look like? What are the next steps? You know, how can people help? What's going to happen to Schaeffer? Is he going to get out of there? What's the story?
Well, he's got an appeal coming up in February, and we're praying for that. We're praying that his appeal goes well. I'm sure you've heard the statistic that America has 4.5 to 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the world's prison population. So we do have a prison industrial complex that's motivated by greed. As far as the next steps for Schaeffer, you know, like Gideon's Army, we're going to name names. We call out the name of Karen Loeffler, the Alaska Attorney General appointed by Obama. We call out the names of these prosecutors, Joseph W. Bottini, Yvonne Lamori, Stephen Scrocky, and we want them to fight amongst themselves. I mean, there's no excuse for what they've done. And we've got them on audio during the trial saying blatant lies during the course of the trial. And we call this out in our YouTube videos. So the goal, I've kind of lost all faith, and you guys can tell me what you guys think, but I've kind of lost all faith of anything being fixed inside the system. I simply don't think we have any congressman with any sort of courage or integrity to do what's right anymore. I don't think that things are going to be fixed from the inside. I think what has to happen is we have to get enough people motivated and enough people realizing the injustices, and that they have to fear the people. There has to be a massive awakening, and it's just like in the Bible. It says that the leaders would do things because they feared the people. And in Ken Hoven's case, keep in mind, he spent 9 years in prison, and he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. The only reason he was freed, and it was the first victory in that Pensacola courthouse, at the federal courthouse, it was the first victory in 9 years. And the only reason that Ken Hoven got the victory in his situation is because that courthouse was flooded with people that supported Ken Hoven, and they showed up, and I believe they felt enough pressure that they let him go. And I think that's what's going to have to happen with these other political prisoners. I simply don't have faith it's going to be fixed from the inside.
I don't really have much faith of it being fixed on the inside, although it is very, very overwhelming and very daunting as a task, and also keeping people engaged. I know that, you know, I've been helping out with the Ross thing for a long time, and it's a full-time job for Lynn to try and keep people thinking about it, and people get fatigued with it. But nonetheless, regardless, at the same time that people are getting, you know, overwhelmed with this information, these people are still sitting in prison, and there has to be something that's done. So I really appreciate your efforts. I think that's really wonderful that you and your family and as well as the Gideons Army group are taking an interest in what's not always the most popular kind of activism, I guess.
Right. And it does take a lot of effort, you know, and you're absolutely right. And, you know, I respect what you're doing for Ross. I've heard about the Silk Road and, you know, his situation. My wife just recently brought me up to speed with that. We've got to go back to a society that has empathy, and we've got to have justice and righteousness. The Bible talks about it falling in the street, and who's going to pick it up, right? And so we need justice and righteousness. We need to reclaim our empathy, right? If we allow innocent people to go to prison, and Schaeffer hasn't seen his kids in 6 years, right? We just recently, I shouldn't say that because he did not see them for 6 years, but just in the past 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe 2 months, I forget the exact time frame, but just recently, Schaeffer did visit his children. It was the first time he'd ever seen his little girl, because his little girl was born a week before he went to prison. And so he got to hold his little girl, he got to hold his son, and his mother flew down from Alaska. And it's like, what did Schaeffer do wrong? The only thing he did wrong was he was too good at what he did, right? He was too good at speaking for liberty and freedom. He was too good at promoting the ideals that this country was founded upon. And it breaks my heart when I think about that we allow this to go on in our society. And if we allow this to go on with Schaeffer and Ross, other political prisoners, you know, you can hang it up. We got to put an end to it. And it's going to take people coming together on a massive scale and raising holy hell with our government and saying, we don't tolerate this anymore.
I think that there is a groundswell. This seems to be an issue that is gaining popularity. I mean, maybe I'm in terms of prison reform and sentencing reform and all these kinds of justice reform pushes that are going on. But I don't know if I'm looking at that from a hopeful perspective and only seeing what I want. But I do sense that people are waking up to the injustice going on, and there does need to be some sort of a breaking point. And I'm very grateful to be a part of kind of pushing that
Amen.
that line, because it's completely unacceptable. When I went to the prison the first time to visit Ross, it was so traumatic. For 2 months every single day I was crying. It was so horrible because it wasn't just Ross. It was, you know, centuries of people being treated this way. If we don't like what you're doing, we're going to throw you in a cage. There has to be some sort of an evolution of mankind where, yes, obviously people do bad things, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even saying that in these cases bad things were done, but how do you treat those people? How do you fix them? How do you fix a society when you basically just trash everyone and lock them up and treat them worse and create more crime and ruin more families that way? That's not a solution.
Yeah, well, the war on drugs, I think, has contributed to an incredible, massive increase in the prison population, right? So, Ken Hoven's book, The Kennel, right? The Kennel Exposing the Prison Industrial Complex talks about that. And he talks about going back to a biblical justice system. But I think we've got a long ways to go before we can implement anything like that, although I am for that. But I think, we do have some massive problems. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. It's called The 13th. It's kind of like the premier Black Lives Matter movie. One of its main themes is the prison industrial complex. And I don't agree. Here's the deal. I don't align with a lot of the things put forward in that movie. Of course, they're in for gun control. They're all about the white man's keeping the black man down. They don't offer any solutions like fully informed jury association or jury nullification. It's all about victim. It's all, I don't walk around, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't consider myself a victim. I know Schaeffer, when Schaeffer speaks, even though he's sentenced to 27 years in prison, he doesn't speak like a victim. Schaeffer is an overcomer, right? He's going to overcome this, and he's going to beat it no matter what. And so I don't align with that movie, but I do recommend people watch it because they need to understand that it's not a black-white thing. The movie tries to make it out like it's a black-white thing and it's a racial thing. And I believe it could try to initiate some sort of race war in America. And I think it will be labeled as the premier Black Lives movie, but it lifts up the prison industrial complex as one of the main themes of the movie. I don't agree with a lot of the points of the movie. I don't even agree with some of the, the propaganda that I would say is being put forth in the movie. Charlie Rangel, there's a guy by the name of Cory Booker. He's a big gun grabber. But I will say this, the movie does bring to attention the prison industrial complex and the horrificness that's going on with that particular issue. And so in that particular point, it is a good movie. But I think we got to realize that it's not a black-white thing. It is a right-wrong thing. And we got to understand why we argue for the things that we argue and understand why we're arguing for those things. And so that's the point I would make about the movie.
Excellent. Great. Well, I like the random books and suggestions that you made as we were talking. I wrote some ideas down. I'll be sure to check them out. One more time before we bid you a fond farewell, where can people find out some more information?
You bet. Well, I just want to give my phone number and my email address and our website. So our website is freeschaeffercox.com. That was put together by friends up in Alaska. My YouTube channel is LoneStar1776.com, where we have 650 videos for Schaeffer Cox. And let's say that you want to interact and you want to help or any way, call me on the phone, right? We're very approachable. We want to help. We want to engage with the public. We want to raise awareness about Schaeffer Cox, just like Gideon's Army, make noise and shine light. Call me on the phone, 972-839-9848. 972-839-9848. We'll answer the phone. We'll have a conversation, and we want everything to be done in the light, right? It's the bad guys who want to hide things in the dark and put people in CMU prisons. We want everything to be brought to the light. And thank you for allowing us on the show to talk about Schaeffer Cox. I really appreciate your allowing us to do that, Tatiana.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm very happy to be able to help, even in this small way. So there's usually a magic word, because we're broadcast over Liberty.me, IPM Nation, LRN.FM, and also on Let's Talk Bitcoin. And they have a magic phrase so people can get LTB coins. So today's magic phrase will be free Schaeffer Cox. And it's FREE space SCHAEFFERCOX. Well, Schaeffer Cox. Sorry, I started going a little whatever. People figure it out. Learn how to spell. And then the URLs are going to be listed in the video notes below, also in our SoundCloud as well. So thank you very much, Rudy. I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and I'm sure that Schaeffer appreciates it too. So thank you.
All right. God bless, and thank you too, Tatiana. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Great. Josie?
Hi.
You know what? People crap on Christians. People who crap on Christians are total jerks. That's so beautiful. That's what religion should be used for. I think that's really nice that they have their religious group and they're not being judgmental. They're trying to help people. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
It makes me really happy. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. And I think there are some amazing Christians. There are amazing Catholics. There are amazing paganists. There are amazing Satanists. There are amazing,
Wait. Hold on. You're going to tell me that there's amazing Satanists? Who do you know that's a good Satanist? Why would a Satanist be good? I'm curious about this.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I don't know much about Satanists, but I'm pretty sure that they eat babies, and I'm not really a fan of that.
Well, I mean, you know what? We're going to include some links to some, no, I'm being serious. We're going to include some links to
good Satan work.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Absolutely. Because I think, there are good and bad people. You bring to a religion what you are inside. That's what you bring to it. Just there's that amazing phrase that just standing in a garage doesn't make you any more of a car than standing in a church makes you any more of a Christian.
Okay, that's pretty funny. But I don't know. I don't know if you're well informed enough about Satanism to make the claim.
I don't know.
And you're also hijacking my nice little moment of bonding with the Christians by being like, but Satan's cool too. I cannot contribute
All
to
right,
this.
wait. Reverse. Let's go back and do it again. Say it again.
I think it was so nice that there is this Christian group that's helping out all these poor prisoners. I really admire their work.
You know what? I do too. I think it's so great. I really, it's amazing.
Brian in the background is writing "Hail Satan." I don't subscribe to this. Be gone. Anyway, regardless, I think it's really good stuff. So, what else has been going on in your world? You've never been on the Tatiana show. We're hanging out on New Year's Eve, which is, I think, very exciting. But maybe that's not exciting to our audience. What's been on your mind lately? What's going on with the world? You're always very well informed about the news with your work, of course. So what are the hot stories right now that we should maybe talk to people about?
Everything, honestly, nothing is real anymore. Fake news is fake news is fake news, and then this is fake news and that's fake news. There's just a huge attack on alternative media.
What a bunch of crap.
What?
What a bunch of crap. It's so irritating. I mean, it's the most fake news people calling.
I'm like, I don't know
everybody fake news.
That you're like, referring to, but if we're going to dive into my personal life, I'm going to need to take a minute. No, I mean, yeah, do you mean actual fake news?
No, I mean like Fox and CNN especially talking about the fake news that they didn't even research the websites that are written by some random lady who's a leftist who decided that all these websites were fake. Not even a legitimate vetting process, but basically being able to, have everybody fight against each other. Sorry, my mom just wrote me in about my grandmother and I lost my track of my train of thought. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying the accusations of propaganda from the propagandizers is hilarious to me. It's completely ridiculous. But there's no standard in alternative media. And this is something that you and I have discussed offline privately. So I think it's sort of a compelling and clever way of tricking people into not believing in things because it's easier to just get over, when I would read alternative news, sometimes I get really overwhelmed and I kind of shut down. So I can imagine for somebody who's not as interested in that, how overwhelming it must be to watch, Alex Jones yelling at you. You're like, oh my God, get me out of here. Even though there's some good information in there.
Okay. Now, what do you mean by no standards? I remember we were talking about that before when you said, let's discuss the lack of or the standards in alternative media. What do you mean when you say there are no standards?
I feel that people are not necessarily researching their pieces well enough, and I think that they're making very biased statements that are very misleading. And while I understand that if you're a journalist, you have your own perspective, but when you when you kind of strive to mislead people because you have an agenda, I think that that's problematic. So when we talk about a lot of these, alternative news conspiracies, for lack of a better term, because I think that's actually quite insulting and ridiculous, but you have to have some measure of restraint in order to be more effective in communicating that. And I'm not sure that all of these citizen journalists are doing the appropriate amount of research. I think some of them are. Some of them are doing a far and beyond better job than mainstream journalists would be doing, but that doesn't happen. So the people that don't really, run a spell check and fact check, they end up making everybody else look bad. So I don't really know what can be done about that, but have you had any experiences?
Drives me crazy, but yeah, no, it actually had. I know from my experience, I have worked. I've written for sites that really have no standards as far as really citations and breaking your own story. I mean, actually going and breaking a story and looking for the information yourself. Whereas the anti-media, I have noticed it's a much more rigorous process. Hi, Kat. Hello, kitty.
Sorry, she's all alone. See everybody? Look, it's a cute cat.
It's a very rigorous process at the anti-media.
What is that process like? If you could give people tips and tricks, how can people? I love that there's all this citizen journalism going around. I think it's really awesome. But can you give people, what would be your tips and tricks? Because you're pretty by the book kind of girl in certain ways.
I don't know what you mean by tips and tricks to do what.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think are some of the requirements and things that people should focus on when they're doing alternative journalism that are maybe overlooked sometimes?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, with me, it's the original source, where the information has come from. And a lot of times that gets a little hairy when it comes to when you're trying to get inside information, because, obviously your source wants to be protected. So they don't, they're able to continue to get this information and leak it. And I think that's why whistleblowers are very important right now. But it's very important to, documentation. I mean, official documentation that is, and I know it's horrible, but even, statistics, government statistics, government documentation. When someone says, oh, well, this is happening. Okay, well, how do you know that? Now, follow that trail. And if it's, a site you've never heard of that just seems like kind of an opinion and maybe hearsay, this and that, obviously that's not true. It's a lot like common sense. Now, it's exactly like common sense, but when it comes to actually writing the story, we go through a very rigorous process. We make sure that unless it's an op-ed, excuse me, every single thing, everything that we say has to be backed up. It has to be proven. We have to hyperlink the proof to that. Like there are no exceptions to this. And if we don't have, exact proof, it's, okay, according to so-and-so, this is what's happening. Could be true, could not be true, but this is what it means if it's true. This is what it means if it's not. And I think the anti-media has gotten very good at that. And I think Nick has built a great solid source. The Intercept is also another one. Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill really, really put a lot of work into that. And and while a lot of it may seem biased, it's biased against dishonesty. It's biased against dishonesty, tyranny. I can't help but be biased against that. So, when you are reading a site, now Google AdSense, every site now they turn you off. I get onto CBS News, which I don't always like to do, but sometimes you have to. And just the advertisements are insane. And I think it's just because it's due to television not being as popular, and social media being as popular. And the only way for these, CBS and mainstream media, any media, really any outlet, the way that they make money and are able to continue to do what they do is through advertisements. And that's why they're so excessive. So when you guys get irritated, when everyone gets irritated at advertisements, remember that's that version of commercials on TV. And that's
how things get paid for. Mixing them together is always kind of an interesting combination. Trying to pay content creators when they're creating news, you make a little bit of a weird incentive process, right? If it bleeds, it leads. I like that old line. So you don't always necessarily get the most accurate picture, but they're making some blockchain solutions to kind of revolutionize the way that news is consumed and to help people, I guess, get more accurate news. But I don't really know too much about those kinds of things. They're sort of a little bit in an experimental phase, but maybe in 10 years we'll have more reliable news sources and more diverse news sources.
Well, I absolutely believe so. The only thing is, I think there's a way around it, though. It's, for myself personally, I find that, every once in a while I may have to write a ridiculous story about Lady Gaga, saluting the, doing high. No, she opened for Hillary Clinton on Hillary Clinton's last night, and
she did the High Hitler thing.
I mean, dressed almost identical.
How appropriate.
Exactly. And a lot of the media outlets were like, oh, leave her alone. It was because Michael Jackson owned it. Yeah, Michael Jackson owned it because he was obsessed with Hitler and bought everything Hitler. Like,
wait, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know Michael Jackson. I don't like that about Michael Jackson.
It was almost from he was fascinated by him kind of a way. Like he said, that's another rabbit hole that we can go down. That would actually be a really fun show to talk about, because that's really
Michael Jackson. I think we were a little late, but I was very, very sad when he died.
Okay.
You were in?
My friend Wendy was also very sad. I wasn't really big. I was never big into Michael Jackson. He didn't affect my life very deeply.
He was an interesting guy, because when he passed away, it was so tragic the way he died. It was just so pathetic and depressing and sad. And they were all like vultures just waiting to pick his bones off of the, pick his blood off the carcass, or whatever the expression is. And it was really, really depressing to me. And then you start looking at a lot of those old YouTube videos where he was this exalted musical figure that really didn't have a chance for childhood, which is not to be understated. Obviously, his life was kind of spent trying to deal with that. But when he started to write about, heal the world and black or white and all these kind of unifying messages, all of a sudden he became a pedophile. So I don't know. I never thought that was a true thing. I know some people disagree, but I don't know. I felt a strong sense of love toward Michael Jackson. I think he made a lot of people happy. I think he made a lot of really good music. I think he had a very sad life. So I don't know. He needs to put away the freaking Nazi memorabilia. That's ruining my impression of him.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a horrible thing to really study,
that's true. You got to know about it. It's just a weird thing. I don't know why people like that stuff, but people are into different things. So what do you think is the biggest news story till the end of the year? Do you think we're going to go to war with Russia? Just one last little bomb for Obama?
Oh dear God. I have no idea, to be honest. The biggest news story. Oh,
I know what the biggest news story is. Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
That Josie Wells is coming to New York for New Year's Eve.
Woo-hoo!
Very excited to see you. Where else am I going to see you? In Acapulco, if I actually go. I'm not sure if I'm going to go yet, but.
Okay. You're not speaking there?
Not as of right now. I mean, yeah, I could. I just need to work it out, some details, and decide if I can make it.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
I mean, we do our visits. I come and bother you for a couple of days.
That's always good. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the news. I think there's a lot of misinformation happening in the news, but I'm glad that you're reporting on it, and your articles have been really very well received. What's your plans for 2017? What do you think is going to happen? Any predictions?
Oh no, I've no
predictions. No, play any of my games with me.
I'm sorry. All right, I'll play your game. Sorry. My predictions for 2017. Oh, what would be a really cool one if when, after the inauguration, it's like this big crazy show. It looks like WWE. Ready? It's literally in the WWE stadium. There's a ring. He's inaugurated. It's fantastic. And then it fades out and fades right into the reality show of either Celebrity Apprentice Celebrity Apprentice White House edition, which would be fantastic.
Clearly.
JK, LOL, I don't care about the stupid government. We're just making a show, which would be badass.
Oh, I think that the show would be entertaining. But I mean, at this point, that's all we're left to hope for out of our presidential candidates is some good tweets and some laughs.
And or a reality show following his family around now. One of the brilliant guys at Anti-Media, his name's Scott, said this because we were discussing this exact thing. He's like, I think there's going to be a reality show following their family around because, from Trump to from the White House.
From the towers to the White House.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes, exactly. Could you imagine the first reality show of the President of the United States? This is a giant opportunity for Donald Trump to do that. And how crazy would that be? Excuse my language. But, I don't
know if that's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised.
Of course. Has anything else surprised you? Donald Trump is president of the United States. So, I mean, let's.
Well, you know what? Considering the outcome, I still think it was a better one. I don't really have high expectations, but I think we've got like a couple more weeks before we can start being depressed again. At least that's how I'm looking at it. I think there's a tiny little ray of hope. Maybe you'll be all right. Probably not. Government sucks. Inherently wrong. I mean, I'm with you, but.
Yeah,
still better than Hillary.
The prosecutions have set it up so that the next president of the United States wants to do with this country, they can absolutely do it with no opposition. So Donald Trump, who has actually gone back on most of his campaign promises so far.
Yeah, well, he's not in office yet, but yes, that's true. He said some. I don't really pay that much attention to him. I just hear random stuff, and I don't like the general vibe toward Donald Trump that he's just Satan all the time, so hardcore pumped into people. I think that it's a little too much for my taste. It's like, give it a rest. Let's give him a minute. And yeah, I mean, hey, he talked to Judge Knapp about a judicial pick. That's good.
Yeah.
It's like something, right? I mean, I can't imagine Hillary Clinton talking to him and saying, hey, who should I pick? He
did appoint Elon Musk to his little cabinet, I think.
Peter Thiel. Yeah. He's got a couple good people. It's not terrible. I mean, yeah, it's probably going to be bad, but I don't know. I'm choosing to be optimistic.
I mean, I think we do have to wait and see. I think what the most of the people are really upset about is the language, is the inflammatory language that he's used on purpose. And I think that's understandable because, I mean, I wouldn't work for someone who spoke like I wouldn't want him as a boss if he spoke to me like I would not want
you get fired, Josie. You're fired.
Good Lord, you're so right. I would be because I'd probably punch him in the face.
I don't see you lasting very long at a position with the Trump institution.
No, but I think a lot of people the way that he handles himself and he just has. The division he's caused, everyone's caused division. This year the last couple of years have been so incredibly polarizing. And people
what I was going to say is that he's not the only, that's why,
not the only one, he's a huge part of it.
But is that what he's saying, or is that the way that the media is spinning it? Because I've got them saying that he said something, and in context, it's not nearly as bad as them taking it out. And also, I don't pay that much attention to him. I guess that's why I don't hate him as much as other people. I don't really have.
I don't even think I hate any of them because politicians are all gross to me. So they're all just in this category of disgusting.
All of them are gross. Got it.
Yeah, like when he says drain the swamp, I'm like, okay, well you're gonna have to drain yourself because you're all fucking disgusting, and I'm sorry to curse, but it's is that
it's a passionate topic. I don't know what the cursing policy here is, but I've probably cursed before, so whatever. You were praising Satan earlier, so you've lost all your Christian viewers.
Yeah. I don't, my Christian viewers, bye. So no, I'm not laughing at it. I'm very sad about all the Christian viewers that I've just lost. I don't even have viewers, Tatiana. This is your show. Oh crap, you've lost them. Sorry.
Thanks a lot. Great. Now everybody thinks I'm a Satanist.
No, they're all politicians are liars, crooks, and thieves. That's all. That's what it boils down to. And you never know what they're gonna do. They're being pulled huh?
That's a really positive way to end the show. In hopes of 2017, remember, all of your politicians are scum.
Like it hasn't been a running joke for 2 decades or two centuries for no reason.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of them, but I am hopeful. I don't know, not because of Trump being president or something. Because what I like about that happening though was that I think a lot of people voted for him not because they think he's so spectacular, but because they wanted anything better. Anything will be better than government. So to me, that mind opening, cracking open their vision behind the curtain and seeing that there's all this corruption in the news and blah, blah, and in the DNC, even the Bernie lovers, they're all pissed. I love it. That's great. That means that they're primed to be thinking about a different solution other than government. And I think that that's fantastic. I think Bitcoin's going to kill it this year. I think my new album's going to be good. I think our New Year's is going to be really fun.
No, I want to say one more thing because I think you might be a little wrong on one thing.
What?
I know. Because the Bernie lovers and the people who are thinking about, a solution other than government are the ones who called for another vote from the government to get Hillary elected, which is government.
Yeah, but not all of them did. Okay, so let's say that there's 100% of idiots, right? And I think that that about 20% of them can be converted. And I think that that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Even though there's still a lot of idiots left, we're taking the good stuff and we're bringing them in. And yeah, maybe they're a little Marxist and whatever, but we'll get them in the team soon enough. I feel optimistic.
That's good, and I'm glad that you're there for the peaceful revolution. And I am here just in case that doesn't work because I'm more of I think it's going to take some fucking blunt force, and I think we're going to have to fight back.
We may need to, and if that happens, will you show me how to shoot a gun because I'm not very good at that.
Yeah, plenty of them. But actually,
I shot one once and I started crying. So pathetic. I was holding it and I was like, this is what man has been doing to each other forever. It's an instrument of death. I was so sad.
Oh my gosh,
I'm a firm believer in gun rights. Like I want a gun. I want to be able to kill somebody if I need to, but I find the whole process to be very revolting and on a
level,
like what?
We are literal opposite people.
Why? Do you get off on the idea of killing people? What the hell?
No, the idea of being able to defend them, being able to defend yourself and learning how to do it, and just I was excited to do it. I honestly prefer stronger weapons to the little handguns. I'm like, whatever it is, give me it.
I thought you were going to insult me as your friend. Like, I prefer stronger friends. I would like to be able to defend myself. I'm just saying that I'm probably not the best person to be in charge of a firearm.
You can comfort everyone.
I'll sing for them. I'll be like, hey, Bob, grab my rifle. I'm going to grab my Gibson.
Yeah, you can cook all the eggs and stuff, and oh my gosh,
what? No, rock stars don't make breakfast. What the hell are you talking about?
You have to.
We're gonna have to work out these
got to
details.
be barefoot in the kitchen.
Okay, well, anyway, listen, Josie, it's been a very fun conversation. Nice way to finish out the show. Hopefully people at home don't think that we're insane.
No, we are.
Well, yeah, but just not for having this call. Before we go, I wanted to give some props and some shout outs. So in Acapulco, if you use the code Tatiana, people can get 10% off. You can go see Josie. Probably not me, but maybe Josie. The BitcoinCPA.com is my friend Kirk, who is helping me with my taxes. And if you have Bitcoins and you want to do your taxes properly, you need to talk to them at the Bitcoin CPA because it's a nightmare. Then we've got freedos.org. I don't know, they're not my sponsor, but I talk about them every time. I know that people are buying Christmas presents right now. So if you go to the freeross.org site, there's an Amazon button on there on the left-hand middle side of the page. And if you click on that, a small portion of your purchases is donated to the Free Ross Fund, which I think is nice. And also people can go to Crypto Compare to find out their latest news about all things in the crypto space. And cryptomediahub.com is my company. So if people want to find out about PR, marketing, advertising to this beautiful community, I'm your girl, and me and my staff will help you. Where can people find out more about you, Josie?
I don't know.
The Satan Society is going to be sending you some postage. So how can they contact you? They're planning on sponsoring you for 2017.
I don't know. Twitter. Go to Twitter. Go bother me on Twitter. I don't even know.
What's your Twitter handle?
Hold on.
Oh my God.
Josie the Outlaw 1.
Oh, okay, fine. The number 1. Okay, fine. All right, great. Well, thanks everybody. It's been an awesome year. Thank you to everybody who's helped me put on this show this year. Josh, buddy, I hope you feel better. Josie, I love you. I'll see you in a couple days. Thanks again to Rudy, to Schaeffer and Ross, and to all the other people in prisons. We're thinking of you and we're not giving up. So I look forward to an amazing next year, 2017, and we will loop back around second week of January. Thanks, everyone. Peace out. Take care.